Okay, so this is fascinating. I'd love if you could explain Ayurveda a little bit more for the layperson.
Yes. So Ayurveda really breaks down to Ayur or Ayuhu, which means life, and then Veda, which means a science or a study of something. So the study or the science of life. And it sometimes is also translated for lay people as the art of self-healing, because a lot of it is focused on, being one's own inner attendant and paying attention to one's own dynamic balance and when one is out of balance. But even though, I talk about how this is a totally different branch of medicine and it can be thought of as pseudoscience or woo-woo, it's actually highly scientific. I would say the way that these ancient rishis started observing the universe for millennia, they got incredibly detailed and granular, and it really is incredibly scientific. It's not using the traditional, scientific method that we think of from the 1800s, but they did experiments, they observed things, they would make hypotheses, they would test them, and through it's debated at least 5 to 10,000 years, they've been refining this process. And has been proven time and time again to be applicable to literally anything in the universe, and definitely to human health. Like, it is actually very scientific, and it's also the oldest living system of medicine on the planet, meaning it actually predates Chinese medicine. There's evidence that Ayurvedic medicine moved up through the Himalayas, through Tibet, and then into China. And that's where all of the acupuncture came in. They kind of expanded on certain aspects of Ayurveda from the Indus Valley and then developed their own branch of medicine. But Ayurveda actually is older. And it still is practiced widely in India. You can become an Ayurvedic physician, doctor, surgeon. It's very well established in India. And again, it has its own, so it's the most ancient. It describes, as I said earlier, everything in the universe. So it doesn't think of humans as some special, humans are thought of as special because of our consciousness, but not because we have some difference than any other living being or any rock. We're all just, again, made of these gunas, or these qualities in different proportions that make us who we are. But we do have consciousness, which is different. So it's a full system of medicine, which means it does not rely on anything else. From their understanding of physiology to pathology to diagnosis to treatment, it's all its own system. So it does not rely on other biomedical assessments to make its diagnosis. The diagnosis is totally different. It's made through a number of different ways, but thinking about how somebody's digesting, what their pulse feels like, what their eyes look like, what their face looks like, what their skin is like, again, what symptoms they have and how that relates to the Ayurvedic concept of physiology and tissues, which is totally different than Western medicine. But again, it doesn't rely, it's a full system. It doesn't need the biomedical model to function. It can function completely outside of that, but it also does pair well with conventional medicine, which we'll get to later as well. Something that is also different about Ayurveda is that it does, although it focuses very much on the gross physical human body, the anatomy and everything, just like other medicine does, it also is energy medicine. It thinks of everything in terms of energies. Again, these gunas, these qualities are a form of energy: lightness versus heaviness, wetness versus dryness. These are all energies essentially that form us. So in Ayurveda, it's always thought of that an imbalance in the energy system happens far before some sort of disease or illness shows up. And so the earlier you can catch an imbalance when it's minor, the easier it is to self-correct versus having to go to much more extreme measures later on, once a disease is fully showing itself in the tissues. At that point, it requires a higher intervention of treatment. So, and again, this, even though it's energy medicine, it's been refined over millennia. So it really has held up to the test of time, thousands and thousands of years. Again, it's an individualized constitutional based medicine. And there's a big focus on, of course, there's its whole other world of therapeutics, but diet and lifestyle are the foundation for Ayurveda. You cannot medicate your diet and lifestyle. You have to eat and you have to live, and you can live in a way and eat in a way that balances you or imbalances you. As for treatments, the main remedies are herbs. There are also mineral remedies, but in general, they're plant focused, biocompatible remedies, things that our physiology is used to because it's exposed to these things all the time, plants, minerals, etc. It has its own very extensive body of body work or body therapies. So a lot of different treatments for different conditions, doing body work. And then it has a very extensive detoxification and very extensive rejuvenation protocol called Panchakarma, which cleanses the whole system and then rejuvenates and builds healthy tissues fresh, essentially, is the idea. And in all of my years working in natural medicine, I have never found any detox that is more comprehensive than Panchakarma. It is a whole ordeal and highly recommended. I mean, it can change people's lives, but it's a big treatment, and it takes, generally, if it's done well, it's like a whole month-long process very frequently.
Yeah, I think just a couple comments. I think from my limited experience with Ayurveda, it seems like everything is extremely comprehensive.
Very complicated, right? That's why when people are like, oh, this isn't scientific, I'm like, okay, maybe not in the scientific method, which is only a couple hundred years old, versus if you really look, it's extremely detailed. The amount of granular detail in these sutras,
which I love, right? Because I love, if I'm doing something for my health, to know that it's been thought about, it's been tested, and it's really been thought about,
Right.
And I think a couple other things that just stood out to me that I just want to bring back up is, it developed in the Indus Valley. It originated in India. I love that it is the oldest living system of medicine. Is it 10,000 plus potential years?
It's highly debated. Some people say at least 2,000. That's ridiculous. I would say at least 5,000. Some people say 5,000 to 8,000. Some people say 5,000 to 10,000, but definitely on the order of magnitude of many thousands of years.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think the other things that I just wanted to pull out are that, that root cause focus, instead of treating illnesses at the, very serious stage, like very preventative. And the other thing that I really like and enjoy is that it treats each person as a different person and not just like one blanket thing, because obviously how could that work? So I think that's one of the complexities that makes sense, and I personally appreciate about it.